The best moves of Monti Ossenfort. Noah, man, let's see them. Here are what we deemed the big five. And again, if you've got pushback, if you've got something that's not on the screen, break it down. But Tyler, I'll run through these and I want to get your thoughts. Number one, hiring JG. Number two, the aforementioned Paris Johnson Jr., drafting him. And then a part of that package was drafting Garrett Williams, signing Yelda Froldholt, who PFF had today the 10th best center in the NFL. And then last year, extending Budda Baker and James Conner during the season. Any quorums? Any issues with this list?
No, I love it. Starting with JG. I mean, how when you not see the video of JG rolling up when he was with the Eagles and saying, let's gut these guys? Does that not fire you up to have him as your coach? I know everyone talks about his first team, it was on Flight Plan, where he was on there and they said he was kind of weird or goofy. Nah, man, I'd run through a wall for JG. So starting at the top, by far, I trust JG. What he's been able to get out of this team as they rebuild and tear this roster down and reset it, and what he's been able to accomplish. I get it, not a playoff berth yet, but man, I just think he's the guy. He's definitely the guy for this team, and kudos to Monty for that hire. Don't like that we got charged. You can almost put an asterisk too that we got charged the draft pick, but for the tampering. But other than that, I mean, Paris, for how long have we asked to get a stud offensive tackle in the draft in the first round? I mean, you've seen the Niners, the Cowboys over the years, teams that, locally we despise. And you've seen them do it, go and grab guys that just haunt you for years and years. And finally, the Cardinals did it. Garrett Williams, he's so underrated. I know locally, we know, true fans that know ball, they know Garrett Williams is going to be a Pro Bowler. He's going to be all those things. The national media may not give him that love, but that's such an underrated move that doesn't get talked about nationally. And then, as you mentioned, Froholt, awesome from where he came from to now. I mean, just a great move. And then, of course, the hometown love to Budda and James Conner.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, you're only as good as your head coaches, and John Schneider was living off Pete Carroll for a long time, and you see now across the NFL landscape, like there are competent general managers that get fired because they didn't hire the right head coach. Monti Ossenfort was able to secure Jonathan Gannon here in a period where the Cardinals were not an attractive destination, and you can't there's in my opinion, there's not going to be a bigger coup for him in his legacy than getting this head coach here. I know they haven't won anything big yet together, but that's everything. I mean, it was everything for Steve Keim. Had Bruce Arians been, instead of 60 years old when they hired him, had he been 45, 50, I mean, who knows? They might still be here simultaneously together. But because you're able to get a coup like Gannon to say, you know what, despite what's going on, I'm going to meet with the owner. And it was a courting of JG because he had options every offseason. He thought he had the job in Houston. So for me, that's always going to be number one. And I think I would caution everybody who is skeptical of this current regime, just turn the clocks back 2 years ago and think about the position of this franchise. We were on Radio Row, and it was a combination of like Kyler slander and Bidwell slander, and no one wants this job. And Ossenfort was the second choice. They tried to hire one of the Bears assistant GMs. He turned them down, and then they didn't have a head coach. Gannon was the last coach hired in that coaching cycle, as you mentioned. I mean, it was just like sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's fate, and they are so lockstep, the two of them. Like Ossenfort picks the players, Gannon coaches them. And Gannon doesn't want to pick the players, but they know just how each other operates, and it's going to be if Michael Bidwell continues to empower them, and I have no reason to doubt that he won't, they're going to win a lot of games this year and beyond. Like, I don't know, Tyler, if they're ever going to win a Super Bowl. I think it's naive to come on here and say like championships and NFC championships, but like I have compared Jonathan Gannon to the Cardinals version of Mike Vrabel. I just think not safe, but you have a floor every year where it's just like, damn, these guys are competitive. And then the high end is like, I think they're going to make some noise in January starting this year.
Yeah, every year I always look at it. What's your worst injury, right? If the Cardinals can be as healthy as they were last year against this schedule,
Yeah.
Like there is no reason. We talk about the AFC South and NFC South. This schedule and these opponents, they have to get to the playoffs or damn well be shy one game. I mean, it's got to be close. And they can't be. It can't be the year that you rolled into that Rams game where you were just atrocious and got destroyed in that playoff game. Like that can't happen either. You just got to end competitive. A couple years ago when they lit up the Eagles towards the end, like you started to see signs as the end of the season came that this team is getting better. Like, and they're a team that is going to be a problem at some point. Would we love to see the Cardinals go from worst to first, like some teams do every year? Of course. And I think this is the year that the Cardinals, not worst, but from third to first can very likely happen.
Let's take a look at that list again here. I want to run through a couple other things that, we emphasized here. The Paris Johnson Jr. package, you mentioned it, Tyler, like they have not had a tackle of this quality in my adult life with respect to DJ Humphries. Like they nailed that because not only did they trade down and get a package that allowed them to draft Garrett Williams, but then they had the foresight to trade back up. Signing Hjalte Froholt was something Keim would have never done. They would have overpaid somebody. They would have gone old and expensive. Froholt was kind of an afterthought by teams. They've developed him, and now he's a staple of what they do. And then last year, having the foresight to get James Conner and Budda Baker done before free agency, it's like we're going to talk about it later in the show. Like getting Baker and James Conner done was like, okay, now I can focus on Josh Sweat. Now I can focus on my other targets where I don't have to compete and let these guys go and test the market. So rarely have the Cardinals done in-season contracts under Ossenfort, though, made it a priority this year. So those were his best moves. Let's take a look at, some of the more questionable moves by Monti Ossenfort. And I hate to call them misses, but they've, I don't know. We've talked about them a fair amount. Let's take a look, Noah. The questionable moves by Monti Ossenfort, I think number one unequivocally is last year's free agent class. I think with respect to Mack Wilson Sr., you look at the two defensive linemen, you look at the cornerback with Sean Murphy-Bunting, who has basically been released by the team. I mean, it was a position in which the Cardinals had money like this year, could have splurged at a couple spots, mainly pass rusher. And I do think it would have helped them win a game or two more this fall. Now, would it allowed them to reach the postseason? Who knows? But, I mean, Tyler, that free agency class last year, it almost felt like Ossenfort learned from it and corrected it this year.
Yeah, the free agent class is definitely my number one, as it was almost like you went from Steve Keim, who couldn't do anything successful in the draft other than Trey McBride and maybe one or two others, to, he would hit the occasional home runs when he started, and he would get some value picks as times would go on, as the years went on, to now Monty, who looks to do fantastic in the draft and then wasn't very active in free agency. It's like, can we get someone that's a little bit that can do all three phases, the trades, the free agency, and the draft, obviously leaning heavier on the draft. So, yeah, I'd agree with you there for sure. The Zach Allen and Byron Murphy one hurts because Zach Allen, seeing what he has become, especially last season, that takes care of a lot of problems today. If you were able to retain him and keep him here. Yeah. So those two are right up there at the top for me.
Those are the two that I consistently see with the fan base, the free agent class last year, but hopefully, again, correcting it this year. And then, I was never big on re-signing either Zach Allen or Byron Murphy. I understood the argument. They were in their mid-20s. They were about to enter their prime, but I think it kind of goes hand in hand with number three. And it's like, we know what the Cardinals did in 2023. They kind of rinsed out this paper towel to see what was worth keeping. And then if guys didn't stick around, so be it. Rolling with Colt McCoy, though, I was at that training camp. It was atrocious. He had no arm strength left. And they should have ponied up for a guy like Jacoby Brissett that year, because what people don't understand is even when you don't intend to be like the most competitive team, you still have to be competent at quarterback or you become completely unwatchable. And they had to trade for Dobbs. It was a reactionary move because Dobbs had a lively arm and could make some plays like they tried to sign Dobbs that spring. They balked over about $300,000. And then it was the worst case scenario because then they had to trade a draft pick for him. So I see some pushback on number 4 here. And hear me out. This is, Tyler, what we talked about earlier. 2024 third-round picks, okay? You've got a running back, you've got a guard, you've got a second or third tight end, and then you've got a corner, right? That third round was supposed to be like the juggernaut to the rebuild last year, in my opinion. Think about the third rounders you got the year before. I don't know, Michael Wilson and Garrett Williams, who are staples of this team. Garrett Williams is a star. Like, the third round, last year's draft was as deep as it's ever been. And you were pushing all your chips in the table. And you traded down again in the second round to recoup a third rounder to take Max Melton. And it's like, of those 4 players, I'm going to pose it to you and everybody in the chat. Like, number 1, you've got, in my opinion, 1 starter out of that group entering year 2. Not ideal. And like, on the surface, nobody's an impact player. I think they could have roles. You could have role players. I'm not aiming for role players in the third round of a loaded draft with 4 third-round picks, respectfully.
Yeah, no, I agree 1,000%. You want to see those guys, and hopefully this year, some of those guys will change that notion that's 4, right? I see a lot of people, they're saying that should be 5, maybe it should be a little bit lower. I think it can be. I just think as of right now, I agree with you. I think that is 4. I think we got to see what those guys do this season. I think that's a to be determined still. Give those guys a second year. Like I said a little bit ago, sometimes guys need a little bit longer to develop, right? And so give them one more season, and that may change. You're not going to change and convince me later that trading for Desmond Ridder was ever a good idea, rolling with Colt McCoy, letting all these other ones. That is the one that can change. So that's
and it's why we listed this questionable, not huge mistakes, glaring mistakes. CBK pointing out, like, future running back doesn't count with Trey Benson. They just re-signed James Conner. Like, you need multiple backs. I'm not pushing back on that. But they re-signed their Pro Bowl running back. He's going to start. Does anybody think James Conner's not going to get 60% of the snaps this year? And then they have Amari DiMercato. Like, Trey Benson, I'm excited to watch him this year. And of the 4 picks, like, the first 2 picks I like well enough. Adams is going to be a good player at guard. He's a starter at guard. Like, that you sell me on that. Hell yeah. Tip Ryman, you know how I feel about it. I think it was a wasted pick given where they drafted him. I think if he's a 4th or a 5th round pick, you can stomach that a little bit more. And Elijah Jones now, I mean, like, where does he fit in? Can he play? He didn't play at all. Like, part of it is like luck a little bit here where, like, he's injured and then now you have Will Johnson. It's like, is he just not going to be a contributor? So they have time, and I'm not writing anybody off after their rookie season. But, like, we went into that day 2 of the NFL draft, and the Cardinals had 4 picks. They ended with 5 picks, and it's like you got Max Melton and some contributors. And again, I'll give Steve Keim a little bit of credit here. Like, I've seen this franchise get Tyrann Mathieu and David Johnson and John Brown in the 3rd round, and Garrett Williams now. Like, who in that group is going to take that next step? I don't know if anybody right now in the chat can convince me, like, this player is poised for that kind of ascension. I think the only one that's starting right now is a guard from Illinois, who I think is going to be good. I think he's going to be a good player, but, like, you got to stretch a little bit. And that was always my concern with Tip. Even if Tip becomes the best version of himself, he's still blocking tight end behind Trey McBride. I don't think that warrants a top 90 selection.
Yeah, I mean, Tip, here's the thing. He's been really great in that blocking role so far.
Yeah.
If it keeps pushing that run game forward, right? I mean, I think of the one where Kyler Murray goes to the house and puts his finger in the air. Like, Tip was in on that play. Like, if you see more of that this year and he keeps ascending, he can change that notion. Trey Benson, we saw highlights of him towards the end of the season. He did show signs of being capable, right? Towards the back half of the season, I should say.
Yeah. Well, I just feel like Ossenfort, to me, there are so many more positives than negatives, but you have to just contextualize when are the wins coming. Like, the wins have to come this year. I think 9 wins minimum. Like, you can say, like, on the right track where they're supposed to be, but they have so much young talent. Like, even these players that, like, I don't love are going to be better, will be better than last year, will help this team win. But it's like, who's getting second contracts from this team of that group, right? Like those are the quite like Paris Johnson Jr. is going to get paid. Garrett Williams is going to get paid. Michael Wilson is the unquestioned starter opposite Marv. Like those are all cemented players, right? Ojulari looks like the only miss from that, first 3 rounds in 2023. Like there is so much pressure, as we talked about it, on the 2024 draft class to help this team win this year. Not for individual moments but I'm going to tell you right now, Darius and Marv appear ready to shoulder the load based on OTAs.
I think it's going to be very interesting when it gets that point where Monty has to make a decision on guys that he drafted or that he's brought in, right?
Yeah.
We haven't seen much of that yet. We've seen him get rid of the old regime's players, but it will be interesting. Right. And hopefully it's not many, because that means good things, right? It means that these guys did take the next step. But that to me is one thing I'm watching, because I think that starts within the next season or so, where he's going to have to make some decisions. And I'm not talking back half guys like
right
T-Palm and things like that. Like I'm talking the guys that he drafted top 100. What happens there?
Well, I think that's why we love this class, is because you just can see it. Boom, 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 boom. Starter at defensive tackle, starter at outside corner, starter at pass rusher, starter at off-ball linebacker, Ohio State corner who's played a ton of meaningful football. You can never have enough. Like, I just think this year, the value compared to last year, save for the first round, was just chef's kiss, way better. Like, Walter Nolan, top 10 player, in my opinion, you get him at 16. Will Johnson, a first-round pick, you get him at 47, right? Jordan Birch, in my day 2 mock draft, I had him going at the end of the second. The Cardinals get him in the 3rd round. Cody White, national champion. Denzel Burke, a lot of people had him as a top 100 player. Like, that's not the end-all, be-all, but this draft this year, that's why we're so bullish on it, and partially because we know who's going to handle these players defensively with Nick Rallis, whereas with Tip and Trey Benson and Michael Wilson I love all these players. Drew Petzing, like, when are we going to see that unit gel where it's like, all the draft picks are working together and this unit is ready to, overcome the skeptics? That has to happen this year.